want to start out by giving all praise to Yahweh, Ba'Shem Yahushua, Ba'Shem Kadesh. Salutation to elders and apostles of GMS groups and ones alike teach 100% true. Shalom, Barakathon to them. Double honors to the elders and apostles of GMS groups and ones alike teach 100% truth. The water for their edification and knowledge. Shalom, Barakathon to them. And all praise to Yahweh, Ba'Shem Yahushua, Ba'Shem Kadesh. Tonight's lesson is going to be about articles relating to CNN Live, updates relating to the looting riot, and also WashingtonPost.com relating to the looting riots. I'm going to read a few. This is CNN Live updates. The George Floyd protest spreads nationwide, May 31st, 2020. 11:40 a.m. updated. This is the article related in the CNN Live's update. This was earlier today. Key points that people need to know. Protests have erupted in at least 30 U.S. cities over the death of an unarmed black man named George Floyd at the hands of the police officer in Minneapolis, Minnesota. As unrest continued into the early hours of Sunday, at least 25 cities and 16 states have imposed curfews. Protests say they want to see change for all the 4 officers involved in the death of George Floyd. One former officer who was seen in a video with his knee on Floyd's neck was charged with third-degree murder and manslaughter. But protesters and critics believe the charges were not harsh enough. Roughly 5,000 National Guard members have been activated in 15 states, including Washington, D.C. More than 60 Secret Service officers and agents were injured in the White House this weekend during these riots and protests. More information on that is on CNN Live updates. I'm going to read Washington Post. Mass destruction. This is in Philadelphia. Mass destructions of businesses in Philadelphia. Nighttime broad mass destruction of businesses along several commercial blocks in Center City, Philadelphia, as protests ignored the 8 o'clock curfew. One building on fire. Injured firefighter was carried off in a stretcher. 38-year-old man in North Philadelphia. Mass destruction of businesses in Philadelphia as protesters ignore curfew. Trash cans on fire, smash windows, smash and grabs, a lot of theft and stealing. A few blocks from the city hall, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of the structural damage relating to Philadelphia. 11 cities in D.C. now activated National Guard members. States: Georgia, Kentucky, Wisconsin, Colorado, Ohio, Utah, Washington State, Texas, Tennessee, Missouri, just to name a few, as well as District of Columbia, which is D.C., joining with Minnesota and calling the National Guard members and forces to respond to unrest breaking out relating to demonstrations against the black American deaths in police custody. Example. Now, in Kentucky, the governor called the National Guard to help keep peace and protests focused on the death of Breonna Taylor, which was a young woman that was killed when the police entered her house on a no-knock warrant and killed her. 7 were shot in Louisville, Kentucky earlier or prior. This is a gathering as it turned deadly. So they were uproar in Kentucky relating to that and other pending cases. In Atlanta, the mayor is calling it a disgrace relating to defacing and pretty much disgracing the city relating to the uproar and violence that was going on. They defaced and broke the windows relating to the CNN building downtown Atlanta. Okay. This is Wisconsin relating to Governor Tony Evers. 125 Guards members to help police and protest infrastructural, according to local news outlets. Colorado governor, he had granted the mayor of Denver request for National Guard support. Ohio governor granted the Columbus police and the mayor request for reinforcements, saying that while most protesters were focused on injustice, a relatively small but violent group of people posed a threat. Governor of Utah, Guard members would help control an escalating situation in downtown Salt Lake City, Missouri. Governor of Seattle activated the Guard members to help protest against property and manage crowd control and traffic in downtown Seattle. He said that the forces will be unarmed. They will be unarmed. Now, the governor of Texas, violence and looting, he tweeted, "Violence and looting will not be tolerated." The National Guard's activated, pretty much. The National Guard in District of Columbia has activated to help maintain order in the area of the White House area. Said, and plus, like I was saying, Secret Service and other individuals were injured relating to near the White House area, as I state, relating to that CNN article. Now, this is WashingtonPost.com. Now, thousands of troops were being activated in Minnesota. Also, active duty soldiers assisting Minneapolis, Minnesota. Tennessee governor authorized the National Guard to assist in Nashville, Tennessee. Missouri governor activated Guards members as he declared a national state of emergency due to the civil unrest, the looting and rioting. And also in Tampa here, we had a minor incidents over in certain areas over University Mall area in Tampa. They were looting and rioting. They were breaking in several stores, jewelry stores, and other. They burnt down a gas station. This is in the area of Tampa. And also downtown area, they were protesting as well. So these things are spreading all over the place. Now, the National Guards and curfews were enacted in several major cities, including Atlanta, Chicago, Louisville, Kentucky, Denver, Miami-Dade, Milwaukee, just to name a few. Americans adore another night of chaos after police protests clash in dozens of cities. Detroit, tear gas was deployed after tensions grew relating to the demonstrations and relating to demonstrations. The demonstrators had no signs, no justice, no peace. Scenes from demonstrators. It escalated, looting and riot. In all various other cities, over 30 cities, pretty much continuous chaos relating to this looting and rioting. I'm going to start to read some verses now. Shalakia on that, a little wind. I'm going to read 2nd Ezra 15, 14 through 19. Woe to the world and them that dwell therein. That's a warning to the world, what's going to happen. For the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands, relating to guns, weapons, anything they can use as a weapon. And this relates to this unrest, man. You know what I mean? And that's what's happening. And this ultimately leads to the race wars and class wars and civil wars. And that's what's happening. Now it's the agenda agent provocateurs escalating stuff is a half and half. You know what I mean? Agent provocateurs bought and paid for to go to these places to stir up and incite, violence. That cop that was dressed up in that bad version of a Gumby uniform, he was an agent provocateur. St. Paul's, Minneapolis police force. He was vandalizing the AutoZone, and they confronted him. So, and many ones like him, you have those individuals that agent provocateurs, because they're there to push whatever agenda. Ultimately, to push whatever agenda that needs to be pushed. They were bought and paid for to push certain things. You know what I mean? And ultimately, the higher ups or the establishment want to cause a race war. You know what I mean? They want to cause a race war. They want to cause contention between different classes of people, man. So this agenda is agenda behind this, you know. And also, of course, the people there, this is an excuse for people because they're frustrated, angry about certain things relating to the unfairness. So this is an excuse for them to pretty much act a fool and do things they shouldn't be doing in a wicked manner. You know, I mean, that relates to the 2/3. 16. For there shall be sedition among men, invading one another, and they shall not regard their kings and princes. In the course of their actions shall stand in their power. That relates to what's happening now. The looting and riots are part of that. And that's what's happening. A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. That's martial law, ultimately. We have this curfew. We in the low levels of martial law. You know what I mean? But the full implementation, where it's going to be pretty much full implemental lockdown, where you're not going to be able to go nowhere. And that's to come. 18. For because of their pride, the city shall be in trouble. The houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. Because of their pride, even when things are going chaotic and crazy, they're going to have a certain state of mind. You know, a certain wicked state of mind. You know, relates to being prideful, haughty, wicked, doing wicked. Even when these things coming upon them, they're not gonna change. Number 19. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy the houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of a lack of bread, which is famine. And for a great tribulation, we in the precursors of great tribulation. And that relates to home invasion, looting, rioting. And that's what's happening. People breaking in these businesses, smash and grab, stealing stuff, man. This is what's to really come. This is just a minor level of what really is going to be to come, especially in the latter times relating to prophecy. 15 and 12. Egypt shall mourn, and the foundation of it shall be smitten with plagues and punishment that Yahweh shall bring upon it. And that's what's happening. This is Egypt here. Modern day Egypt is America, Babylon. And these plagues and punishment, plagues are being sent. Coronavirus and different other things. Punishment by Yahweh Bashem Yosha. In courtesy of Yahweh Bashem Yosha. So he's sending these things upon the nations of the world, man. The scourge, which is a tool used to implement punishment. He's beginning to visit what he has made in 2 Ezra 9 and 2. So he's beginning to visit what he's made by sending certain things upon the people, man. Ultimately for their disobedience and wickedness. 16 and 18. For the beginnings of sorrows and great mourning, the beginnings of famine and great death. And that's what we're in. We're in the beginnings of sorrows, great mourning, death. Beginnings of wars, powers that shall stand in fear. The beginning of evils, what shall I do when these these evils shall come. We're in the beginning stages of these things. When you hear these things in other countries, now it's beginning to surface and touch here. Behold, famine and plague and tribulation and anguish are sent as scourges for the amendment. Scourges, like I said, is that tool ultimately used for punishment. 20. But for all these things they shall not turn from their wickedness. That relates to the 2/3 majority of the pop, nor be always mindful of these scourges. Even when all these things that's precursively set in full implementation will be set in the latter times, people are still not going to change from their wicked ways. They're still going to be prideful. They're still going to be haughty, and they're going to still do as normal. You know what I mean? That relates to pretty much the 2/3 of the population. 21. But victual shall be so good cheap upon the earth, that they shall think themselves to be in a good case. Even then shall evils grow upon the earth. That's a good point, because even when they think from the optics, a false optic of illusion, that things look like they're getting back to a pre-normal, but in reality it isn't, because ultimately it's getting worse. You know what I mean? Relating to the sword, the famine, and the great confusion, which is chaos and uttermost chaos. So that's going to be, I call it a mirage of deception. Appear to look like it's okay, but it's not. And that relates to the horrors in the last time, in the last days. And we're in the last days, and these are precursors of examples of horrors that's going to be happening, and ultimately a lot more. Verses. I'm going to cut this to an end. I'll read a few more verses. This is 2nd Ezra 16 and 70. For there shall be in every place and in the next cities a great insurrection. A great insurrection. And that's what's happened. A great insurrection is a violent uprising. It's a violent uprising relating to this looting and rioting. These are the precursors of that violent uprising. And those that fear the Lord. Ultimately, these 3 verses that I'm going to read talks about the impending persecution relating to the prophets, but you could put it with the state and condition, the things that's happening precursively right now, relating to these looting riotings. You know, that's happening. And they shall be like madmen. That's what's happening. They madmen. You know what I mean? They acting a fool. You know what I mean? They charging the police, having no regard for authority, as it states in 2nd Ezra 15 and 16, that they're not regarding authorities, and they pretty much want to, this is an excuse for them to pretty much, out of frustration, do wickedly. Let's continue on. They shall be like madmen, sparing none, but still spoil and destroying those that fear the Lord. So it relates to violence and uprising, because that's what's happening. They're going to come up against the men of the Lord ultimately, but they're going to oppose authorities and powers as well. And like I said, that relates to their state and behavior, their mind state and behavior relating to the latter times. For they shall waste and take away their goods, and them out of their houses. Home invasion, rioting, looting, stealing, robbery. 73. Then shall they be known who are my chosen. That relates to ultimately the prophets, because that's what it's talking about. But like I said, it can relate to pretty much the state and condition, how these people are going to act towards one another in the latter times. There's going to be violence among one another. The sword is going to be used against authorities, against the people against the authorities, people against people, class of people, race wars, different things. We in 2nd Ezra, as I state, we in 2nd Ezra 15, 16 now. That's what we're in right now. So These are the things that's going to be happening. These are just a few verses relating to that. I'm going to start out by giving all praise to Yahweh, Bashem Yahshua, Bashem Rakadish, salutation to the elders and apostles, GMS groups and ones alike, teach 100% truth, Shalom, Barakathon to them. All praise to Yahweh, Bashem Yahshua, Bashem Rakadish. The water, Shalom, thank you.